Hey folks, this is Kelani. Let's have a look at another spec and how it's changing going into Battle for Azeroth. We started off Warlocks, so we might as well finish them. The demonology spec underwent some pretty amazing changes and is looking to be both fun and powerful next expansion, but what are the other two specs that Warlocks get to play with? Let's test out Affliction first and see how the damage over time Warlock spec is shaping up. Remember that even though we're only a few months away from BFA launching, we're still in beta, so everything is still subject to change and may not reflect the finished product. Affliction has always been about damage over time effects, and that hasn't changed at all. Lots of dots to spread to as many enemies as you can reach so you can happily run circles around them as they slowly die. The joys of a dot spec. If you're really keen on playing an Affliction Warlock, maybe because you're playing one right now and don't want to change, you should keep your fingers crossed for more and more multi-dot fights in the raid encounters. Affliction has had such a field day in Legion. Hopefully you guys and gals get to spread your wings a bit in Battle for Azeroth as well. Honestly, not much has changed from Legion to Battle for Azeroth, but let's lay it all out so anyone new to the class can see how it all pieces together too. We're still a Warlock, so we're still using Soul Shards. You can hold up to 5 at any one time and you regenerate 3 while out of combat, so you should always have 3 going into a fight and you'll have to generate some more from there. Sadly, there isn't actually a reliable way to generate Soul Shards for Affliction, so there's a little bit of RNG at play here. As an Affliction Warlock, you'll have the choice of an Imp, Voidwalker, Fellhunter or Succubus for your loyal demon pet via Summon Demon. I think you'll probably end up using the Voidwalker for questing and leveling, and then you might swap around for group PvE content depending on what you need and obviously what does more DPS. Our first damage over time ability is Agony, and this is both a very important portion of our damage as well as the only semi-reliable source of Soul Shards. Agony deals damage over time, which stacks up to 10 the longer Agony remains on your target. Agony will deal the most damage when it reaches 10 stacks, and refreshing Agony will keep your stacks, so it's always important to refresh Agony and not let it fall off your targets, otherwise that ramp up damage will have to start all over again. When Agony deals damage, you have a chance to gain a Soul Shard. The other main damage over time ability you'll want to keep on targets is Corruption. As baseline Corruption just deals damage over time, nothing too special about it. Now to spend those Soul Shards we have a few options. First up is Unstable Affliction. This has a short cast time, costs 1 Soul Shard and applies a damage over time effect to your target, but also does a few other things. Unstable Affliction increases the damage you deal to the afflicted target by 10%, and you can have up to 5 Unstable Afflictions going at once to really stack up that damage potential. If Unstable Affliction is ever dispelled, the Dispeller takes damage and is silenced, and if any target dies with Unstable Affliction on them, you'll be refunded 1 Soul Shard. Unstable Affliction will be your go-to Soul Shard spender in most scenarios. If you ever want to dish out a heavy amount of AoE damage, you can also spend 1 Soul Shard to throw a Seed of Corruption. This seed will explode after 10 seconds, or if the target takes a certain amount of damage from your other spells. The explosions deal damage to all enemies within 10 yards and also applies Corruption to them. Set a few seeds up, blow them all up, and your enemies will be no more. There's a new spell to spend your Soul Shards on too, but this one is more of a cooldown. Summon Dark Glare costs 1 Soul Shard, has a 3-minute cooldown and extends the duration of all your active damage over time spells by 8 seconds. The Dark Glare will stick around for 20 seconds, dealing 10% increased damage to its target for every damage over time ability you have active, so throw out a whole bunch of dots, lots of Unstable Afflictions, summon your Dark Glare to increase their duration, and deal silly amounts of damage for the next 20 seconds he's alive. Sounds like a pretty fun cooldown, though does more or less the same thing as the Demonology Demonic Tyrant, which is really interesting. I'm glad that it works in a similar way, but is both a different demon and more tailored towards how Affliction deals damage. 2 Warlock specs having a cooldown that works in kind of the same way is really interesting. It's like the cooldown is a Warlock cooldown, but depending on your spec, it changes how it works. The last ability that rounds out our base damage dealing kit is Shadowbolt. This is very much a filler spell. Short cast time, deals a bit of damage without really affecting anything too meaningful. No Soul Shard generation, no interaction with dots, just a filler spell. We have 2 passives to go along with our active abilities. Our mastery is Potent Afflictions, which increases the damage of Agony, Corruption, Unstable Affliction, and Seed of Corruption. So pretty much everything except Shadowbolt for the baseline kit. Our other passive is Soul Leech. All single target damage grants you and your minions a shield for up to 10% of your max health. There's also quite a few utility spells. I think most of them are the exact same as what Demonology gets, no surprises there. Usually the spec differences for Battle for Azeroth lie solely in the damaging abilities. It looks like they really want defensive and utility abilities to be tied to the class, rather than a spec. We have Unending Resolve, a 40% damage reduction cooldown that grants immunity to silence and interrupt effects for 8 seconds. Shadow Fury, which is a 3-second AoE stun on a 1-minute cooldown. I didn't go into this very much in the demo video, but Warlocks are actually one of 3 classes, I believe, which still have an AoE stun, so that's going to be quite an important part of your kit for Dungeons and Mythic Plus. We also have Command Demon, which allows you to command your demon to use their special ability, so pick your demon wisely. If you need to dispel magic but have your Voidwalker out, that's not going to work out all too well. Warlocks also come well equipped to fear any of the lesser classes with their key crowd control ability, Fear. Just don't pull any extra packs while you're at it. Banish allows you to take a demon, aberration or elemental out of the fight until you decide to bring it back. We have Drain Life for the moments where you just want to stand and face tank a few mobs, and of course Health Funnel to keep our lovely demons healthy and fit. There's also all of the raid utility stuff that Warlocks are famous for. Create Hellstone, create Soul Well for when you want to share your Hellstones, create Soulstone to pick up the noobs who die too early, Demonic Gateway to help your raid get around, and of course Ritual of Summoning, the main ticket getting us into all of those lovely groups. There's also Enslaved Demon for the rare occurrences when we find a demon worthy of enslaving, and Eye of Kilrog when you want to scout out the area first. Who am I kidding? When was the last time anyone used Eye of Kilrog? Seriously, if you've used Eye of Kilrog recently, please let me know. Am I just out of the loop? Alright, so that makes up our baseline kit. Lots of utility and plenty of reasons to bring a Warlock into your party. But how do the talents change up how we play? This seems pretty straightforward right now. Load up your damage over time and fill in with Shadowbolts. On the first row we have Shadow Embrace. Shadowbolt applies Shadow Embrace to your target, increasing your damage dealt to them by 3%, stacking up to 3 times and lasts for 10 seconds. So providing you're throwing out a Shadowbolt every 10 or so seconds, that's a tasty 9% damage increase on your target. You can actually keep this up on more than one enemy too, so if you really need to multi-dot and you manage everything perfectly, you might get 9% on 2 targets. We also have Haunt, which deals a bit of damage and increases your damage to the target by 10% for 15 seconds with a 15-second cooldown. If you use this on cooldown, you get about the same effect as Shadow Embrace, except you won't be able to apply that to more than one target though, and it's not going to have 100% uptime because of the cast time, and it's another button to push. I wonder if that 1% makes it worthwhile. The last talent on this row is Deathbolt, which sounds really cool but is probably going to be really frustrating in execution. Instant cast, 30-second cooldown, deal damage equal to 30% of the total remaining damage over time effects on the target. So line everything up perfectly and unleash a massive Deathbolt. That's going to work really well alongside your Dark Glare, but if you mess it up, you could lose a ton of damage. Down a row we have Writhe in Agony, which increases the max stacks of Agony from 10 to 15, giving it a higher max damage. Absolute Corruption makes Corruption permanent and increases its damage by 15%. For PvP the duration is 24 seconds instead, and then we have Siphon Life, another instant damage over time effect which deals damage over 15 seconds and heals you for 30% of the damage dealt. Demon Skin allows your Soul Leech to passively regenerate and it caps out at 15% of your max health instead of just 10. Burning Rush lets you trade health for movement speed so you can feel like you have some mobility, and Dark Pact allows you to sacrifice 20% of your current health to gain a massive absorption shield. Sow the Seeds causes Seed of Corruption to embed a seed in one nearby target, which is actually enough from live right now, only one additional target instead of 2. I guess Affliction Warlock AoE was a bit too strong in Legion. Phantom Singularity spawns a little shadowy sphere above your target, which leeches life from everything within 15 yards and heals you for 25% of the damage dealt. Vile Tate is another AoE spell, just in case you weren't happy with Seed of Corruption. This deals damage over time to everything within 10 yards of your target, and reduces their movement speed by 30%. Vile Tate does cost a soul shard, so you'd be choosing between casting this and casting Seed of Corruption. I wonder which one will end up on top, though Vile Tate does have a cooldown. Dark Fury reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fury by 15 seconds, Mortal Coil gives you another single target fear effect which heals you for 20% of your max health, and Demonic Circle allows you to place a portal which you can happily teleport back to whenever you feel the need. Nightfall gives Corruption a chance to make your next Shadowbolt be instant and deal 25% increased damage. Drain Soul is still here, except it's now a talent. If you pick it up, it does replace Shadowbolt, so you can go back to the Drain Soul filler spell if you want to. Drain Soul just deals damage when you channel it, but it also has an execute portion and deals 100% more damage if your target is below 20% health. If a target dies while you're channeling Drain Soul, you'll also gain a Soul Shard. Grimoire of Service allows you to play without a pet. If you sacrifice your pet, your spells and abilities will have a chance to deal some extra shadow damage. On our last row we have Soul Conduit. Every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded. Creeping Death allows Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life and Unstable Affliction to deal their full damage 15% faster, which could work heavily in your favour, or perhaps the opposite, depending on how you set yourself up with cooldowns and talents. And then the last talent we have is Dark Soul Misery. This is a 2-minute cooldown which increases your haste by 30% for 20 seconds, and haste is going to be very important for pretty much every class I think, not just Affliction Warlocks, so we'll see how powerful that talent ends up being. I swear, everyone in their raid leader is going to be after haste. So quite a few interesting choices in the talent section, though I do feel like a lot of these talents will either be stronger or weaker, leading us to a potential cookie cutter build faster than any other set of talents I've played around with. Things stack up a bit too well, or others just don't bring enough to the party. It's going to be fun to see what people come up with when everything is balanced. Assuming everything ends up balanced, which it probably won't, but Affliction is still more or less playing like Affliction in Legion. Not too many changes, just enough to keep things interesting, and losing the artifact abilities and traits is probably the largest change to Affliction Warlock, which is a bit lame, but hopefully you'll end up with a rounded out rotation when the Azerite armor comes into play. If you really want a few more buttons to push, you can also run around with War Mode on, so you have access to all of your PvP talents out in the world. It seems to make a lot of classes more fun, which I both enjoy and hate at the same time. It almost feels like a chunk of your class is locked behind War Mode, but let's not get into that discussion on this video. This video is all about Affliction Warlocks, and so far I'd say they're a good amount of fun. If you enjoyed them in Legion, you should enjoy them just as well in Battle for Azeroth, and hey, if you ever get a little bored, demonology is looking absolutely fantastic, so there's your silver lining. What do you think of the Affliction Warlocks so far? Would you rather see a few more spells and abilities changed? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to hop on that train, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.